Brad.
Well, thank you, Deputy Speaker. And tonight it's my sad duty, really, to inform the House of the passing of two exceptionally fine gentlemen in my electorate of Braddon just over the last few weeks. There are those people in our community that everybody knows. Every community across Australia has them. They are those people who everyone seems to have a connection to, everyone seems to have a story about. These people are woven into the fabric of our local communities, and they are more often than not the lifeblood of our towns. They are often not the mayor, they're not the local member of parliament, but dare I say it, they are the real leaders on the ground that people turn to in good times and bad. They are pillars of our community. They are the members of our local football teams, they are Rotarians, they are volunteers, they're parents and friends, committee members, they're presidents of organisations and service clubs, and they're servicemen and they're carers. I want to pay tribute tonight firstly to Mr Lance Cox. Deputy Speaker, if I was to stand in the Devonport Town Hall in my electorate and make these remarks that I've just made, I'm confident that many in the room would immediately think of Lance Cox. Lance Cox, a great man, passed away on the 31st of January in the Hobart Private Hospital. Many in the Devonport community would remember Lance from the Devonport football scene. He played 389 games of football in his career, 187 of which he played for Devonport, and through his long and distinguished football career he in fact played 7 games for the Richmond Football Club in the VFL, as well as winning the Devonport Football Club Best and Fairest Award in 1965. He was in the Devonport Football Club Team of the Century. In fact, Lance was voted as vice-captain. While I have no doubt his football skills were what got him into the Team of the Century, it was Lance, as a man of great character, that led his peers to elect him as vice-captain. Another local legend in my community, Paddy Martin, remarked, "There wasn't one person in the combined sides that had something unpleasant to say about him." Deputy Speaker, I also recall Lance's exceptional sportsmanship and contribution to the game, and it was recognised more fully in 2007 with the Lance Cox Neil Conlon Medal was created to be awarded to the best on ground from the Devonport Club for the first ever NTFL Bogues Heritage game against South Launceston. The story of Lance finding out that he was to have the medal named after him is one that truly reflects the character of Lance. When Lance was asked to comment on having the best player medal named after him, he said, "It's a great honour to have a medal named after me, but especially because it's with Neil." There are many in the community, I am sure, who would have similar stories of Lance. A humble man, a funny man, always looking to pull others into the spotlight with him rather than to bask in any glory himself. Lance's involvement in the Devonport Football Club was just one of the many roles he held and contributions to the community he gave. I know he was a large local figure, but it was not until I read all of the tributes to Lance that I realised just what an enormous contribution he'd made to the northwest coast of Tasmania. As a life member of the Parents and Friends Committee of Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic School, Lance dedicated hundreds, if not thousands, of hours to education and the Catholic faith. Outside of education, Lance was a founding member of the NWFU 200 Club and served as their treasurer for the past 7 years. In his 35 years as a member of the Rotary Club of Devonport, Devonport North, Lance was a president and Paul Harris Fellow. Lance was also a member of the Mersey Regional Sub-branch of the National Servicemen's Association, and dare I say it, he was a member of the Mersey dance group called the Wrinklies. The most significant group, though, that Lance was a member of and most proud of and most committed to was that of the Cox family. Lance was the family rock, and those in my electorate would have seen the many tributes to Lance from his closest family and, of course, friends. A man of principle, integrity, a strong work ethic, Lance will be remembered as an outstanding member of the community, but most of all as a loving father, grandfather and family man and husband of Jan, who was always there to help out a mate. To quote from one of the many tributes to Lance, "The world is poorer for your passing, but the kingdom of heaven is richer, a life well lived." Deputy Speaker, the words I spoke earlier about the pillars of our community not only describe Lance Cox, but describe Larry House, perhaps far better known on the northwest coast as Mr Better. Laurie passed away on the 3rd of February after many years as an icon in the Tasmanian dairy industry. There are very few people in Braddon, very few people in Tasmania that have never heard of the iconic Tasmanian milk brand Better Milk. Whether they saw one of the infamous Tassie as tour ads with Frank and Nikki from the Better Protection Squad, or had it every morning for breakfast, almost every Tasmanian knows the iconic milk brand Better. Well, the man behind the milk, Larry House, became well known as the man who built the Better brand and became better known as Mr. Better. Laurie grew up on Tasmania's east coast in the small town of St Mary's. As a young man, Laurie worked as an administrator with the Postmaster General, where he travelled around the state taking up various postings in this role. After all the time on the road, Laurie found himself on the northwest, where he took up the role with what was then the local dairy cooperative in Burnie, Better Milk. With his background working for the Postmaster General, Laurie was a highly skilled administrator, and after he came on board, Better Milk grew and grew and grew. By the mid-1990s, Better Milk was trading statewide, and Laurie then had convinced the Better Milk Board to establish the Heliers Road Distillery, a legendary local distillery that I make sure that I have plenty of stock in my office, as the member for Bass will attest, and make sure that any ministers or visitors get a chance to have a taste of that earthy Heliers Road Distillery whisky that is a part of the dream and vision of Larry House. You would be forgiven, though, Deputy Speaker, for thinking that milk and whisky production doesn't go hand in hand. Well, Heliers Road Distillery, however, is an award-winning distillery and is the world's best-selling Australian-crafted single malt whisky. Anyone who's come into my office, as I just said, will certainly know of that, and will have seen the top shelf of my Braddon produce display dedicated entirely to produce from this distillery. Laurie never got to come to Canberra to experience that, but he knew full well that I was a great advocate for the Heliers Road brand. The man behind the milk had a side that fewer Tasmanians saw. That side was dedicated to his family and local community. Laurie served the Northwest through the Burnie Emu Bay Lions Club for over 28 years. He was a laugh a minute. He had a great sense of humour, was always up for a prank, and he was a great man to spend time with, and he loved spending time with people and enjoying their company. Laurie also used his standing in the business community to help others, supporting and sponsoring the McKenna Park Regional Hockey Complex, just to name one. I remember my father, when we were in local business, had a lot to do with Laurie House, and he had such a high regard for this man, and that was passed on to me, and I've known nothing else other than a gentleman, a man of great integrity and character, who was always great support to me, always had something to say, always some advice to give, but always a smiling face to deliver it with. Though Laurie will undoubtedly leave an enormous hole in the community on the northwest coast, it is his family who will obviously feel the loss the most. Laurie and his wife Pat had 4 children together: Genevieve, Caroline, Eloise and James. Laurie was an uncle, a brother, a father and a deeply loved member of the House family. Can I pay particular tribute tonight to his wife Pat? Laurie didn't enjoy so much of the best health over many years. In fact, it took a great toll physically some years ago when he lost both his legs, and he spent a considerable amount of time in a wheelchair. But his smile never left his face, his wife never left his side, and their companionship continued to leave a mark on all of those that watched on. What a tremendous couple, and what a tremendous testimony to commitment and marriage that Laurie and Pat were. Madam Deputy Speaker, both of these men, Lance Cox and Larry House, have shaped the Northwest Coast in their own way and in their own lifetimes. It is with great sadness that their community farewells them, but they will both be remembered into the future for the role that they had in changing our place and impacting our future on the northwest coast of Tasmania. My thoughts and prayers and this testimony of their lives in this place go out to the families of both men, and may they both rest in peace.